what do boys need to become men these days?
Boys have got no choice but to understand the importance of a military-like lifestyle. Simply because we are at war. I will repeat this.
What actually makes a boy into a man? What's missing? Because something's missing in our community right now.
So,
does the black man actually like the black woman?
My baby looking too good, yeah, she perfect. No, she worth it. When she pull up, all them man, them flirting. And yeah, she know that she a dime. Call up on my line. Told her, baby, bring it one time. Yeah. Girl, sit down and relax.
Yo, what's really good though? It's your girl, Yezzir. You are locked in for another banging episode of Hey Sis. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, who is this gentleman to my left and to your right? Well, we got Manlike as our special guest today, blessing us with a whole heap of things we're going to be talking about. So for the people that don't know you, Nels, please let them know.
I'm Manlike. I'm an entrepreneur and sound designer based in South East London. And thank you for having me today, Yezzi.
It's a pleasure.
Obviously, we've been talking about this one for a minute. So, really looking forward to talk about what we're going to talk about today.
No, of course. Just a little context here, not just for my people on YouTube, but for the Hey Sis supporters over on Spotify. I have known Nels for donkey years, for many years. I've known you so long that I forgot how we met.
Literally.
Do you remember how we met?
I'm going to say something to do with Nomi TV. Maybe.
Are you sure we met through Nomi TV? I think we met before that.
Yeah.
I think so, but for some reason... It must have been through SP. Was it through SP?
Maybe.
I think.
Yeah, maybe.
It's been so long.
Yeah, that's possible.
The thing about man like Nels that always gravitated towards you is that you're a clean-hearted person. So through the way you operate your business, your studio, what's the name of the studio so they know?
MLN Studio.
MLN Studios. Okay, and what's your Instagram handle as well?
Any handles online, it's Manlike Nels.
Manlike Nels, literally that. Yeah. Clean-hearted person, and you know when you walk into a room, and you're like, my spirit sits well with this person. I'm not gassing it. That's immediately how it always was.
I appreciate that.
From all the sessions that we've done, through music, through shows, I've performed at your events, you performed at my events. It's always been good business with Nels.
I agree.
And it's just a pleasure that fast forward X amount of years, we're here and we're having this conversation that's needed.
No, it's proper. And yeah, I have to insist that basically there's a set of values that I believe that you're supposed to have. And as you have those values, it makes interaction so much smoother.
100%.
You know, so you have to embody the ideas that you have. You can't just have the ideas and not be about them.
Exactly. We're not trying to talk about it. We're trying to be about it.
That's it.
Especially with the topic that we're talking about today. So we're talking about the dynamics. You were like, sis, there's something that's on my heart. We got to talk about it. And I said, yo, Nels, what's on your heart? Like, what's going on? And he said, I want to talk about the dynamics between the black man and the black woman. And I was like, whoa. I had to sit back and think of it because I'm like, okay, it's not the gender wars. Yeah. Because that's going on a lot right now. But to actually talk about the dynamics, where we're at, where we're going wrong, where we're going right, is definitely something we need to get into. Now, just before we do get into the topic, I got to let the people them know that we do have some milestones that we're trying to hit with Hey Sis UK. That is where our handle is on Instagram. So follow us on Instagram. We're on 7,000 plus followers. We're trying to get to 10K.
Push that.
Come on.
Push that.
Come on.
I forget reach.
It has to get reach. With the YouTube as well, we're trying to get to that 1K milestone. And obviously on all our socials, follow us. But now let's really talk about it. The dynamics between the black man and the black woman. What comes to mind for you, Nels?
So in terms of where we're at right now, there's an apparent discord between us.
100%.
And also there's situations that we find ourselves into that are the result of previous situations.
Okay.
Now, what's important is that we go into this topic with mindfulness, understanding that not everyone is at the same point in their lives.
Yeah.
And also that people process information differently. So in the world that we're in today, you've got two different types of people. You've got people that live in practical reality, and you have people that for whatever reason, whether it's to cope with the level of trauma that they've had to deal with, they deal in the world of Delusion.
Okay, Delusion. Okay.
And at first, as someone who takes pride in the fact that I live in the world of practical reality, meaning that for me to be involved into a situation, I have to know exactly what the situation is. And I have to have the capacity to perceive tangible situations out of what it is that I'm involved in. I've recently encountered people that, as opposed to me, require a little delusion in how they function. And I realized that people do that as a coping mechanism.
Is this men or women you're talking about?
I think it's both. I think this is just humans in general.
Okay.
People operate differently. So when it comes to the dynamic between black man and black woman, this is something that falls into play because people just operate in accordance to what has worked for them up until this very moment. And when they attempt to make situations work, they do the best that they can. So understanding that you've got to look at the discord that happens between us and you've got to start to pick it apart. Right?
So let me pick it apart. Yeah, I'm going to go straight into it, okay? Forgive me, Nels. Does the black man actually like the black woman?
Of course. I think the idea that we don't is programmed through obviously the media, because we don't control the representation of us on television. Obviously you're starting to get a few black-owned networks, but that's still not fully representing the level of excellence which I believe that we know we should be representing. The ideologies that in order to make it in the society that we're in today, there's only a few selected paths that one can take is the result of that limitation. Because if someone dictates the image that you have, ultimately, the way you imagine yourself is in accordance to that image, as opposed to the wide possibility which is found within the world of imagination.
No, of course. I mean, this lingers into the realm of colonialism. We know how deep-rooted that is, yeah. But when I ask, does the black man actually like the black woman? And you say, it's TV and the media. But then if I go on Instagram and I go in the comment section, you've got the passport bros coming out, talking about, leave Western society, these British women, American women, get you a woman from Cambodia. She's subservient. She's respectful. The black woman doesn't respect. And it makes me feel like, where did this respect narrative come from?
So what we must all understand, men or women, is that we are in a war.
Okay.
And the reality of a war is that it is happening. So as I mentioned at the start of this conversation, it's important that we distinguish the difference between people who live in practical reality and people who live in Delulu land. Now, the reality is that if you live in practical reality, you move in accordance to the fact that by looking at the history of humans, we can acknowledge conflict being transmitted from year to year.
Okay.
Now, when you pick that apart, you understand the source of the conflict and the way in which it impacts the day-to-day fellow or let's say the average working man.
Okay.
Right? And the way in which we interact within any societal structure will involve men and women.
Yeah.
Right? Especially if we are in the world of carrying out the human race, which is procreation. We need one another. There's no ways around that.
Yeah.
You know, so the individuals who you mentioned who are in the comment section.
Yeah. Passport bros.
The passport bros.
Because they're loud. They're loud and proud.
Whatever they label themselves.
Are you familiar with them?
I'm very familiar. I know what's happening on the timeline. It's funny.
What do you think about passport bros?
So, as someone who's travelled,
well-travelled,
yeah.
Talk about it.
I've been very privileged from my career and choices, and it's put me in a position where I've got to expand my mind by going to different countries, going to countries where they don't speak the language that I was taught as a child. See, as a child, I was taught French because I was born in France. And obviously I moved here, so I learned how to speak English. And I've also learned the language of my ancestors, which is Sango. I'm from the Republic of Central Africa. So having 3 languages has given me the flexibility to go in many different places and encounter many different cultures. And in fairness with the passport bros,
talk your talk. I'm not judging.
Yeah, in fairness with them,
talk.
I understand some of the ideas which they insinuate. No, I don't support the idea of specifically saying go get you a woman outside because it's going to be easier to control her. I don't support that idea. But I understand the differences that are present between women that are living in first world Western society and women that perhaps are living in second or third world countries. There's a difference because of the day-to-day reality. Now, any scenarios can be distorted for whatever purpose someone has. You know, if the purpose is to bash black women, or if the purpose is to bash women in general, you can easily make women who don't come from England or America sound really bad.
Yeah.
It's easy to do that. You can just pick your words carefully and mission accomplished.
Yeah.
You know, so, but what I would say is traveling will enable you to understand that not everybody lives the way you think they do. And you will obviously give yourself more experiences to make a decision from.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So with the current dynamics right now, it's 2024. It's been a crazy year. We've seen Cat Williams come out the woodwork. We've seen beef left, right and centre. You're thinking, it's only January. When like in February now. With the dynamics between men and women, what do we need to do next for it to get better? Because it's not in the greatest place. I wanted to pick your brain on a term that's been circulating on TikTok specifically about black women. It's called a UK beast. Have you heard of it?
No, you're educating me right now.
Okay, so some people saw footage from some kind of reality show. I think it's Lani Good's reality show, and it's Baddies Club, something like that. And it's like any bog standard reality show that you'd probably get in America, where you have a lot of arguments, they lead to fighting. We've seen it with the Love and Hip Hops. Someone coined the phrase UK beast, and now every time a black woman shows a bit of emotion, they call her UK beast. A lot of women are saying that it's an unfair label to give whenever someone expresses anger. And we ask ourselves from time to time, why is it that, obviously the dynamics are strained right now, but why is it that black women have been the topic of comical conversations for so long? Like, what is that? And I'm asking you that as a black man, because I don't know.
No, it's a great question, and thank you for asking it. As I said, I will always go back to the reference point of what I mentioned, and there's a reason why I mentioned those reference points. When you look at the media world as a whole, so when you look at imagery which is transmitted from a place to the rest of the world, since the beginning of the introduction of that procedure, there's been a very clear way in which we as African descendants have been represented in the media. And it has always turned around, or it has always circulated, may I say, around the idea of making fun of us, completely positioning us in a circus where we are the topic of laughter, right? So you look at, America, blackface was the first introduction to African descendants in the media, right? And then you start to affiliate stereotypes with that imagery, and that becomes a process which is found within the desensitization of the individuals who indulge in digesting this content. So then that leads you to a position where you've already processed that this is the sort of function which you play when it comes to media representation. So the standards that you place on yourself as someone in front of the camera are not the standards of someone who understand that media representation isn't just about the present moment, but it will linger for a very long time.
I mean, it's lingered for a long time. I went to school in Southeast London, inner city. There's terms that are going to get thrown around a lot, whether it's to do with gender, colorism, the whole shebang. But what I've never understood, and I feel like a lot of women would like me to ask this question, is that as a black woman, it's like you get programmed with this unwritten rule of never making fun of the black man, always standing by the black man, loyal to the black man. But it doesn't seem like it's been reciprocated.
So you don't think it's reciprocity?
No, I don't think it has.
So when you operate in accordance to a code of conduct, which isn't fundamental, or I want to say fundamentalism, based around the active practice of an African code of conduct.
And sorry, let me ask you like this, Dels, yeah? Why is it that black women have an unwritten rule to stand by the black man, but the black man doesn't have an unwritten rule to stand by the black woman?
So the idea that this is non-existence isn't something that could have come from us original Africans. This is only an idea. I appreciate that perhaps it's a feeling that a lot of people feel.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's an encountered reality.
Yeah.
But that very concept could never be something which we produce.
Yeah.
That can only come from the enemy.
The colonialists.
Right? There's no way that you're going to be an intelligent African person and normalize such dynamics.
But why does it still exist? Why is it still being perpetuated right now?
As I mentioned at the start, in the world of practical reality, we understand that it's a war. So we are not playing our game. We are in someone else's reality.
Someone else is the puppeteer.
Someone else is the puppeteer.
But how do we get out of that?
So this is brilliant. This is what I'm all about. I try to be about this when it comes to my music, but through conversation, we shall get there. You have to take charge of your thoughts. Hence I said mindfulness at the start of this, right? You have to practice a mindful approach to your day to day. And you have to realize that each one of your thoughts and each one of your actions determine who you are. And there's no ways around that. Like, I think it's important that as a people, we appreciate the beauty that is found within working on our personal human experience. Our human experience involves interdependence with other humans. We are not just here by ourselves to just, isolate ourselves from our community and our people. That's stupid and silly.
Yeah.
However, we have to understand that it is a conscious effort to give or offer the best of yourself to somebody else and vice versa. It can't just be a scenario where we don't understand what is going on. We have to take some time in our days or take some time throughout our day and analyze situations and relationships which we maintain. It's something that you have to do. And if you have to also analyze something which you could have done wrong as well, don't take that lightly. Work on that and understand the standards that you have of yourself and the standard that you expect other people to also have. Now, when it comes to the unwritten rule, as I mentioned,
it because it's a bro sis conversation, so you have to keep it real with me. None of this political talk. Let's get to it.
But ultimately, politics is what controls us.
I hear it.
In the world of practical reality, you with me? I will get.
Yeah,
we will peel the onion, as we say.
Yeah, we got to radicalize it.
Let's peel the onion, but we understand that politics determine dynamics.
Okay.
Right. And to not actively be present as a black man, to not actively be present in the life of a black woman, is and in a way that's positive and empowering, is a clear indication that you don't know your function as a black man.
Okay.
You're with me?
I'm with you.
So to ever be in a scenario where the statement where you made has any level of relevance, it's a clear indication that you do not know what you're doing.
As in the man.
The man, absolutely. Okay. The man does not, because to me, as an African descendant, as a man, I understand that women require assistance, just the way that men require assistance in certain aspects of life. So before we even get into a romantic conversation, we've got to understand a coexistence conversation. How do we actually move with one another? You know, how do you refer to black women? How is the tone in your voice when you speak to a black woman? Where, do you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you actually maintain a good conversation and a good energy around one another? You know,
what you've mentioned is basically, are we actually saying it's ignorance though? With the times we're in now, the level of access people have to the World Wide Web, from texts, books, videos, all of these things, are we really still saying it's based on ignorance, that they just don't know what they're doing? Nels, come on, man.
So the idea that ignorance today can have a chokehold control on someone, as you mentioned, is preposterous. So I don't think it's strictly based on ignorance.
Okay.
I do believe, however, that individuals found in our community, some, persist in the idea that you can be over 18 and not assume the responsibilities that you have as an adult. The world of adulthood is one that understands that the way in which we function as adults goes past ego and emotion. To only be able to process of ego and emotion is a clear representation of a childlike experience, because we expect children to act in accordance to their ego and emotion. They don't know any better.
So how do we raise the boys to become men, and vice versa for girls to women? What's that bridge? What actually makes a boy into a man? What's missing? Because something's missing in our community right now.
So I would just like to say there's a word that you said a while ago, which is desensitized, and I feel like that there is the one. I feel like that's where we're at in society right now.
Absolutely, I thank you for that involvement, my brother. For those that don't know, it's brother Links. You get me?
Come on,
with the fire and that. No, precisely, and hence, you know, there's some keywords that have been thrown around today. You've got to comprehend representation. The representation which begins on that screen desensitizes you to the atrocity which is occurring within the image. Because now you've perceived the image, your brain has been shocked already, and you are now in a situation where it doesn't mean what it's supposed to, you know? So when it comes to the transition between the young boy into a man or the young girl into a woman, well, it's clear and obvious. We know that the world of manhood, since the beginning of time, has consisted of usefulness. So your God-given powers, if you're a believer, or if you're someone who indulges perhaps in science or in the things that are explainable, the abilities which come with your human body are given to you so that you can develop them and give back to the world which you appeared in.
Yeah.
You know, for instance, I'll talk about myself.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
As a child, it was clear and obvious that I had God-given skills when it comes to sound. So not utilizing those skills which were clearly present would be a disservice to humanity. Because if there's a clear gift, why are you not going to use it? Now, here's the thing. This is when the argument could get a bit complex, and people could say, well, how about those that aren't talented? If you don't actually explore creativity from a young age, it becomes something which is more complex as an adult, simply because, Picasso says that children don't grow into creativity, they grow out of it.
Oh.
Right? So the idea is that you have to develop those skills which are present in your life, and you have to have the right environment in order for development to occur. You know?
Yeah.
But in terms of, you know, young boy to man, you have to understand how your actions should always reflect purpose, right? Because this is the only thing which will bring you satisfaction as a man.
Yeah.
When a man is on track with his purpose, the level of satisfaction which he feels within himself can't even be described into words. Like is something that goes beyond vocabulary. It's a sensation which one has to experience in order to understand. And we also know that women require love for them to feel in their best element. And it's a beautiful thing to witness when you can see a woman who's feeling love, right? So it's important that we understand what is found within the nature of a man and what is found within the nature of a woman. And when a man is in his purpose, when the man knows how to build a house, you just have to be on the construction site and see the men that know how to build houses to see how much they enjoy it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? You just have to see them there and you're like, okay, cool. Let them do that.
Yeah.
We'll go do something else, So in terms of the youth, this is what they have to bear in mind. I have to take a path which is going to enable me to really explore the qualities that I've got to develop,
I remember a couple of years back, you had an enlightenment in regards to dating preference. We won't get too deep into that. And I remember we were having a conversation and you're like, I've realized this is what I want from a woman. This is the type of woman I want. Who are you looking up to at that point, and who do you look up to now that you say, okay, this is what I aspire to be, or this is what I aim to be, or this is what I feel like a man is? Are there any particular people that you're looking up to? Because I feel like we've passed the stage now where some people still do idolize the rappers, the people that visibly have a lot of money, rappers, boxers, images like that. But who do you feel like young men should be looking up to? If they don't have someone at the house?
No, of course, which is the case for so many people. I think...
Hey, I see you watching. And we got our special guest right here, Manlike Nails.
Let's kill it.
Yes, get it. Now, before you do anything, you need to make sure you like, subscribe, drop a comment, and I hope you made yourself a cuppa because we're really getting in with this one. Let's get back to the episode.
That's facts.
He's loving the cup of tea right now.
Yeah. The value that resonates with my soul the most is courage. When I can perceive courage in the acts of an individual, automatically I will put respect on that person's name, and the way in which I perceive them will be elevated. It won't be a case of me just seeing someone that I see on a day-to-day. But when I can notice that someone displays courage with their actions, and their speech also indicates that they don't live in the prison that is fear, they live a life which goes beyond fear. And that is something that I can't turn a blind eye to. I admire that. This is a quality that I place on a pedestal, right? So I think of individuals like Thomas Sankara, who, in my opinion, is the greatest African leaders of all time.
One more time for the people then. Thomas what?
Thomas Sankara.
Okay. You have to spell that one for me afterwards.
The former president of the Burkina Faso.
Okay.
And any of his speeches are available on YouTube and highly recommended for French speakers, English speakers. The subtitles available now to go and watch, because you will learn a lot from that man, and you will learn a concept of integrity for African descendants, which is to be enforced and followed, because it's due to the lack of integrity that we are now finding ourselves in these situations which are complicated for no reason.
Wow. So to summarize, it's 2024. We're in dire straits when it comes to masculinity. I'm just going to put that buzzword out there. So what do boys need to become men these days?
Boys have got no choice but to understand the importance of a military-like lifestyle, simply because we are at war. I will repeat this for the third time so far. Get out. I mean, actually, I was about to allow my emotions to lead me to tell people to get out of the Lululand, but I'll control myself, and say that I empathize with the individuals who live in the Lululand, because I understand that sometimes it might be easier to require to that in order to cope with the current point you're in life. However, when you graduate from that stage of your life, you will be able to understand things for what they are. And the current state of the black community requires African warriors.
So would you say a lot of people in the black community are delusional right now?
100%.
What have you seen that's delusional in the black community?
So my comprehension of delusion, just so that I can clarify that for all of the people watching us or listening to us, is anything which you cannot demonstrate on the back of speaking it falls under delusion. Okay. So whatever you say has got to have a tangible or a practical association with it.
Don't forget to subscribe to Hey Sis UK so you never miss out on an episode.
What I want to get down to, is you mentioned that in the black community right now, we're delusional. Mm-hmm. You said it. Mm-hmm. What is it that we're delusional about, topics-wise? Are we delusional when it comes to money? Are we delusional in regards to the workplace, our relationships? Like, what makes us delusional? Because that's a strong word to use.
Mm-hmm. No, I appreciate that. And I think, as I said, you just have to look at the definition of delusion.
Okay.
And understand how it's applicable to your existence. You know, you mentioned the interview of Cat Williams at the start of this conversation. And there's something that he says in there which is extremely powerful. He actually touches upon that topic. He says that the best thing that someone can do for themselves is to disillusion themselves. Because you start to function from lenses of clarity. You know, the path that I've taken led me to a lifestyle where I operate in accordance to clarity of thought, purposeful action, tranquility of life. These are the three aspects that dominate my day to day.
Okay.
I have to think clearly, I have to act with a purpose, and I have to function within a peaceful environment. This is how you function without delusion hindering how you live your life. Okay. Because all the subjects which you've mentioned, you know, you said, what are black people delusion all about?
Yeah.
Well, look at the way in which we approach spirituality.
Okay, you're going to I'm a Christian now, but if you want to touch on it, touch on it.
No, but
talk your talk, I'm going to talk my talk.
No, for real, but look at the way we approach spirituality.
Okay.
Look at the way we approach finances.
Okay.
Half of us don't even understand capitalism. I say half of us to remain polite. I should say 90% of us don't understand capitalism. And then think of, obviously, the subject which we're touching upon today involves romanticism.
Yes.
Another area which we're delusional about. And what was the fourth one?
Well, that I mentioned.
Yeah.
I said the workplace. I said
the workplace, which falls under finances and capitalism.
Yeah.
We're also delusional about that, because the way in which we carry ourselves, thinking that a system designed by our enemy could ever be beneficial to us, is delusional.
So are you saying that black people shouldn't bother to make an effort in the corporate world?
That's not what I'm saying at all.
So what are you
because
saying?
What I'm saying right now is an understanding of practical reality. So how does the corporate world fall into play when it comes to the elevation of African descendants?
Okay, so I'm first gen. I'm first gen British born of Nigerian descent, yeah. Mm-hmm. How do I practically navigate myself in the corporate world?
Brilliance. The way you do that is that you understand exactly who you are and you understand exactly why you're there. One thing that the corporate world has a specialty of doing for a lot of people, it creates a narrative which a lot of people take on and embody as part of their identity. The workplace, which you've chosen as an area of profession, doesn't define who you are. You've got to understand that who you are is this first gen African descendant, because Nigeria was also, you know, a name given to us by the opposition.
Yes.
So
we're not going to go geographically.
Let's
go.
Yeah. You're this African descendant who has a job to do.
Okay.
For the purpose of the elevation of yourself and your people. Right? So don't get lost in the source is what I would say in terms of the practical actions to take in the workplace. In terms of spirituality, now, my aim isn't to destroy. My aim is to be constructive when it comes to the ideas that I'll offer, and also the concepts that I'll be the parrot of or the echo of when it comes to the great African minds that have spoken on these topics. So you mentioned that you're a Christian. I understand that my brothers and sisters who are Christians do not hold Christianity nor the church accountable for some of the situations that they know they should be holding them accountable for.
I mean, let's just call out the elephant in the room. The Catholic Church hasn't been the best representation for Christianity.
Let's go.
My denomination is Anglican, Church of England. We know that was formed by Henry VIII.
Let's go.
I understand that. I am a follower of Jesus Christ and the practices in accordance to that. Now, when we talk about modern day religion and Christianity, I understand that commercialism comes into it a lot. So there are certain denominations that I steer away from because I know it's being consumed by consumerism. For example, the Pentecostal Church. Now, I'm not here to aim at any type of denomination, but I do want to make it clear that you do hear a lot of people saying that you don't know what you're doing, you're following your pastor and things like that. I'm a very big advocate for not only learning the scripture, but memorizing the scripture, because with time it does change, like everything in this world. I understand that Western society has demonized my ancestors' practices. Now, I'll be specific. People know that I'm Nigerian, of Nigerian descent, and I belong to two tribes, which is the Yoruba tribe, which is quite well known, and the Igbo tribe. They have had their own gods for different things. That's
Shango.
You don't know. Shout out to my Yoruba people. So very powerful God. And it's been demonized because obviously it's in favor of our colonialists who have done that. But I do feel like you come to an age, if you've been born into a religion, that you have to make a choice of what you want to follow when it comes to practices and your moral compass in life. Because that's what it is overall, morality. What's good and what's bad. That's always going to be the same across the board if you know the difference between good and evil, no?
There's a book called The Genealogy of Morality.
Okay.
Written by Friedrich Nietzsche. Highly recommended, which touches upon what you're talking about. And it explores the introduction of good and evil as phrases to be the representation of morality or a moral compass.
Okay.
And what's interesting about religion is that if you actually study, you find that the idea of the practice of a religion has been thrown out into societal structure for that very purpose, to basically tell people what was right and wrong. But what is brilliant about Friedrich Nietzsche's work is that it exposes the fact that the individuals who have put those concepts in place literally do what they tell you not to do. So the scriptures is going to tell you not to kill, rob, and rape. And the three actions which I've mentioned are practiced by the very people who put that book there for you to understand what was right and wrong.
Yeah.
So what is important is that when you function in accordance to practicality, you hold that standard of excellence within every single interaction that you have. Okay. So I appreciate the historical backgrounds which you've given us, but what is the message which I'm sharing with people is the active practice of holding people accountable, even within your belief system. Because
100%.
Even though I'm not a Christian anymore, with my knowledge of the Bible, I know that Jesus was a revolutionary.
Okay.
And he held everybody accountable.
Talk about it.
He didn't just walk into places and made himself small.
Okay.
He made a mess.
That's right.
I said a mess.
Okay.
So if you're not making a mess for what you're standing on, what are you really doing?
You got to shake the table. So, Nels, what is your moral compass now? Like, what do you follow? What do you believe in? What is it that you do that keeps you on an even keel?
So I have been so blessed to have spiritual experiences of my own, which have been the result of prayer, the result of meditation, and the result of actively putting into application the killing of my ego, I found that beyond your ego is the realm of spirit, and that has relevance to nobody other than myself. I am not here to impose my personal experiences on other humans, because I understand that those personal experiences occurred for me to see what I have seen. The practice of feeling the requirement to make somebody function in accordance to what your set of ideas is something which you've learned from your enemy, because your enemy used that as a tool to distract you from your own personal journey. See, the world has got a bunch of surprises for each and every one of us to learn from, but we tend to get in the way of those surprises because we subscribe to someone else's agenda, which is designed to keep us as a tool within their plan.
Okay.
So in terms of what leads me as a man, I understand the importance of integrity, because I've been given those values within the education that I received as a child, even though it was through traditional African teachings and Christianity. I understood the lessons that were explored through my parents' education system. But then it helped me to understand that what comes first is knowledge. So I started to pursue more and more knowledge, more specifically ancient knowledge. So stuff that was written, thousands of years ago, or stuff that was written 500 years ago. And what that done for me, it developed a love for information, which has been the source of my sense of exploration,
So you've got quite an array of an educational background. You're well traveled. You've read. You've gone into further. You've denounced religion. You found your own path. Does education? I think over the course of, I want to say, the last 15 years, maybe because of social media and stuff like that, there's been a downward spiral of men and women within our community having an actual thirst and hunger for education, for knowledge. I'm going to talk about my scripture in the sense of, in Proverbs, it says that wisdom is better than silver and gold. And
Absolutely.
all these jewels that you aim to collect in this world. So how do we get the knowledge back? How do we get that thirst and hunger for knowledge? Because without it, it seems like we're just going to go deeper down this spiral, because now knife crime is getting higher and higher, and not just in the capital that is London, even though the news likes to make it look like that. Will we ever get back to that as a community?
To echo on what you've done, I'll also say, due to the lack of knowledge, my people perish.
Oh, so you know your scripture.
I told you, man. I know my thing.
Come on.
Now, like I said, I found love within knowledge, because knowledge has the capacity to liberate you from the shackles of ignorance. Ignorance specializes, and I'm picking my words very carefully here. Ignorance specializes in placing you in servitude. See, what's interesting about people's understanding of slavery, it was often talked about specifically as if slavery only consisted of individuals placing you in chains and controlling your every movement and telling you what to do. Slavery happens and occurs the moment there is a dynamic of a master and a slave. That can also, and I'll even go further by saying that actually occurs when it comes to our own self. Right? Like, are you a master of yourself, or are you a slave of yourself?
Because even Willie Lynch to this day is still a master in a lot of people's minds on a psychological basis. If we were to tap into colorism, just dip our toe into the pool of colorism, it still affects our community today. It still has a big division within it. It doesn't even make any sense. So you believe even up until now that black people are still mental slaves?
Hence our greatest writers of all time, people that have left us, libraries of knowledge, your Marcus Garveys, your Kwame Nkrumah, they dedicated huge chunks of their lives speaking about the very topic of the importance of emancipating your mind. There's libraries and books that talk about this very topic. So the only way out is through knowledge and education. And you have to understand that perhaps you've experienced some traumatic experiences in school which have diminished the way in which you relate with information and transmission of information. But you have to make it your personal task to develop love for that process again. And you also have to realize that ignorance can only keep you a captive. Because even past ignorance, even once you have the information, due to the cycle of habit, which is created in 21 days, for those that don't know, you are likely to conduct yourself as the slave you once upon a time were, simply because of habit.
Yes. Well, okay, so it's got me thinking, because the grassroots of where we were at our very greatest in society was when we were in our own areas. Will we have to get a point of separating ourselves from other people in order to reach that level of greatness again? Because it's hard to know your identity in technically a foreign land.
So, to answer your question, I will echo what some of the great speakers have done and bring the example of Asia. Asia, once upon a time, was also in a situation where they were at the bottom of the equation.
Yes, that is true.
And they decided to close their borders. Well, to be more specific in terms of Asia, China in particular. China closed their borders for 30 years. And in those 30 years, solidified their plan and executed in accordance to their set of values. And then were like, do you know what? Let's jump back in the game. So the fact that no one brings question marks when it comes to what a yellow man does, to echo the great Malcolm X.
And on top of that, China being very generous to loan money as well.
To echo the great Malcolm. No, for real. Like, we don't put question mark on what other communities are doing. And the moment an African man like myself stands and say, yes, Africa does have to focus on itself for a certain period of time, we will now begin to perceive attempted labeling situations to do with that African man. So I insist when I say that we must function by ourselves, for ourselves.
Okay.
There's no way out of that.
Move like a queen and I like what I see and I wanna get more of that.
I undress and he blows success. Lay down as you decompress. Come mine and forget the stress. Got the 9 to 5 cause he tryna change his life. He can't help it but to show his bad side. So you feel me Yezzi when he want that good ride. Follow my stride, you know you want a good time. Pick any card, I know it won't decline. He know how to please me, never tease me. Keep me in Givenchy, laced in Gucci.